Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live Friday question and answer class, where you can ask questions regarding American English pronunciation, American accent, intonation. We'll talk about topics to help you improve your overall communication in American English. If you're new to class, please feel free to ask your questions at any time by typing them in the chat. And welcome back to those of you who've been attending for quite some time. Welcome to our channel members and subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. It's been great to see you week after week. And you've had some really wonderful questions and suggestions, both in this class and in our Word of the Day series. I've really been enjoying hearing about the words and topics that you'd like to talk about, and it helps me know which things you struggle with, which new videos to create, and what topics to cover in class. So welcome and thank you. As I said, go ahead and ask your questions at any time, and I'll be going through them in the order that they're received. Nice to see you, Rose. Hi, Halim. So I put a little poll in our community page this morning, and I'm going to take a look and see what you voted on. So if you aren't familiar with that in the channel, when you go to Speech Modification's channel, Speech Modification Seattle, you can see we have the videos, the live classes, the playlists, but across the top you can also look and see that we have a community page. And here's where I post sneak previews. I let you know about new videos that are coming up. And oftentimes I'll have a little quiz or a poll with a question for you to think about. And the answer is usually revealed in that video from that word of the day or in that class. And so today I was just asking about topics, what people would like to hear about. And it looks like so far the winner, there's only a couple of votes because I just posted this, but the winner was to talk about how to use TV and movies for practice. So let's talk about that for a minute or two. And then of course I'll be answering your questions as we go. So I have a couple of videos highlighting some techniques for practice. And they're specifically looking at intonation, how to use TV and movies to practice for intonation. Also how to use it for listening and hearing the difference between what we have in written speech versus in spoken speech, where we're connecting, we're linking, we're using reductions. And one of the things that I often recommend is to turn on the English subtitles when you're listening to something that's in English. So you might think, oh, it's better not to read, it's just better to listen. And if you're really at a basic level of language learning, you may, start with reading and listening and then go to just listening to challenge yourself to improve the listening comprehension. But when you're at the level of your English is good, you're not really working so much on learning the language, but you're using the language and you're wanting to improve on your pronunciation and accent, the reason to be reading along and listening is that it helps your brain make sense of the differences between the written speech and the spoken word. And you may or may not be noticing them on a conscious level, but there's been research to show that on a subconscious level, you're able to hear those kinds of connections. So for example, we often look at what I like to call real talk in this class. So let's just say maybe the character on the show says, it would be great if you could come. Okay, so they're not going to be saying it would be great if you could come. Clearly, that sounds really choppy. It's not natural. It's correct. Every sound and every word is correct, but in connected speech, it changes for fluency and for that flow. And so rather than it would be, they will contract would, and they change that to it'd. And because we have this that T and D together, it would becomes it'd. This T becomes more of a flap. So I write that like this. It'd. or it'd. So I either would use kind of an I there or an there. And I'm going to write that with two D's so it makes more sense. It'd be. So right away, if you're listening and you hear that it'd be, you might not think that this is what's being said. And so it's not a really good match. It'd be great if you could come, if you could. So here's another place where the U would get reduced, and we typically wouldn't use that clear oo vowel. It's correct to say you, but since the U is not stressed in this sentence, it would be great if you could come, if you could. Then that U becomes a ya. The could becomes kind of reduced a little bit as well. And my length comes on that stressed word. It'd be great if you could come, if you could come. So if you're hearing that and reading the written words along underneath, your brain starts to match those up better and notice where it's okay to do reductions, where it's okay to link. So that's one of the main tips that I like to give, is that you can watch any show in English, follow along on the subtitles, and your brain will start to make sense of that sort of linking and those reductions. One other tip I would say for using TV and movies to improve your accent, you can take a movie that has really fast speech, and especially on YouTube, you can use the settings to play it at 3/4 speed instead of full speed. You do want to get used to listening to fast speech and full speed, but again, when I slow it down, it still sounds natural and connected, but I can hear the sounds a little more carefully and a little more easily about what's happening exactly for those sounds. One third recommendation that I'll make, which is a pretty basic one, which is as you're watching, pause it and imitate what you just heard. And don't worry too much about the exact details of the pronunciation. Try to get the big picture. Try to get the connection, the intonation, see how somebody says it, and see if you can just take advantage of using your ear and imitation and getting used to, oh yeah, okay, I can say it that way. And it might feel a little fake or a little foreign, and that's kind of the point. You're trying to just be an actor, take on this other voice, see how it feels in your mouth. And in combination with working more specifically on your pronunciation to be correct, that piece of just letting go, relaxing a little bit and imitating often is a very useful tool to balance out the hard work that you're doing, practicing and being specific and focused on pronunciation. So those are a few tips. I have more that I talk about in my videos, and we can talk about those more here in class as well. But thank you for those of you who voted in that poll, and some of the other suggestions. You can go in after class and vote for what you'd like me to talk about, and we can cover some of that next week. Okay, let's take a look at your questions. Thank you for waiting. So we have a question about why do I stammer in some words like significantly? I'm guessing for that particular word, significantly, it's because it has so many syllables and you have to move from place to place and consonant to consonant. And the other thing that can happen is if I feel nervous about a word that's coming up, or I say to myself, oh, I always stumble on that word, then I'm likely to stumble on that word. What I suggest is when you find a word like that, practice on the word by itself and build your confidence that, hey, actually, I can say this word. Maybe I need to slow down a little bit, pay a little bit of extra attention. But if you have the mindset of, I can do this, I can bring it into my speech without stumbling, without stammering, then you're telling yourself, yes, I can do it. You're setting yourself up for success. We often sabotage ourselves by getting nervous or anxious or trying to avoid certain words. I do it too, and I'll be much more likely to mispronounce or struggle with a word if I'm thinking ahead of time that I can't do it versus thinking ahead of time, sure, I can say significantly. I practiced it. I'm confident. So looking at your word, let's break that one down just to help you. Significantly. So first of all, understanding for sure that you understand the correct pronunciation, you know it, and you can use it. And then building your skills, building that ease with which you can say it and kind of getting that motor practice piece. So significantly has second syllable stress. It has the I vowel in many of its syllables. So signif. So this could be an I or a schwa, significant or significant. Again, this CAN can also be, these two can either be a schwa or an I. They're just unstressed and short. Significant. We do a stop T there and an E at the end. So let's write it out. I would say thinking about it as breaking it down. Sig, nif, kent, significantly. That kind of looks funny like scent. So I would say maybe writing it like with a K or writing these as an A. So the unstressed syllables can have a schwa or a light I. They're just very short, lax vowels, significantly. Also build it up from just the word into some short phrases because I can practice and then I go to speak and it's still hard to use it fluently and easily. So say significantly better, significantly worse, significantly effective, etc. Building it up slowly and getting lots of practice in the types of contexts where you're actually going to use it will help you stammer and stumble on it less, is my hope. Okay, thank you for that question. Halim has some questions. Hypertension, immune, diagnosis, discipline. So for hypertension, we kind of have a stress unstressed pattern here, hypertension. The main stress is on the 10 of tension, secondary stress on the first syllable of hyper. And you may find that if you're talking about hypertension versus hypotension, that you might have to put a little more stress on the per or the po than you would just based on how the word goes. So if in the context, if I'm trying to make it clear that I'm talking about hypertension instead of hypotension, we don't actually say hypotension with the stress there. But okay, so we have the shun, S-I-O-N, has the S-H and the schwa. Stress on my 10. So this S says the SH sound. The Y says I. It's like same as the word high or high, hyper. Make sure you do an for your but it doesn't, you don't want to put a lot of stress on it. Not hypertension, still the tight back R, but light and short on it, hypertension. Great, hypertension. And you also asked about immune. Immune has second syllable stress, has a lax I vowel, and mu has the glide ya in it. So we don't do moon like M-O-O-N, we do mune. So thinking about the word you with a Y, immune. You can also think about a cat says mew. That's the same thing with the glide ya in it, immune. And then immunity, we would just add our ity with the flap T ending if we wanted to talk about immunity. Okay, good. And then last two, diagnosis and discipline. I'm having to double check on the spelling here. Discipline. Okay, so diagnosis, stresses on the no. We have the letter I says its name, I, diag. This is a schwa or an I, diagnosis. Both S's say S, diagnosis. And discipline, first syllable stress. The C is silent. It just sounds like discipline. Long, short. Okay, thank you for those requests, Halim. And I do have a number of your words still in my word of the day list yet to cover, so we'll be getting to some of those soon. Thank you for your frequent requests. You often have great suggestions that help other people as well as helping you. Let's see, the next question. is the correct pronunciation of really. So I do have a video talking about this in more detail, which I'll point you to, but let's go through it. Most Americans, when they're using the word really in connected speech, don't really say it with the word real in it. I can. It is correct to say really, really. In that case, I have to kind of do a little bit of a schwa, really. I think it's less common. I think what we really say is we use the I vowel. That's what I really do most of the time, especially if I'm saying really pretty, really nice, really great. If I'm saying it by itself, somebody says, oh, something really surprising happened. And I say, really? Really? Then I might do more of the E vowel, more of the E, this vowel. But when I'm using it together with another word, I really typically do the I vowel. So I suggest trying words like hilly, silly, getting used to how those sound, and then just use the R, really. Now, that's not that easy because we have the R and the L, really, really. But my video for the word really will help you break that down and choose which one you like to use. I think this one's much easier and sounds very natural and fluent. So that's usually what I recommend. Thanks for that request. That was a good one. Okay, so we have a question about the words metal, as in the substance, metal, as in, I don't know if that's actually a real word, metal. That would kind of be like the word kettle. I know there's a word nettle with an N. I'm not sure if that one's actually a word, but it would have the same pronunciation as meddle, like meddling in someone's affairs, and medal, like Medal of Honor. Okay, so short answer, all the same. They all have the red tent vowel and then a flap, which I'll write this way. It's basically between a T and a D, metal, and then a syllabic L. So a little bit of a schwa in there maybe. It doesn't matter if I spell it with DD, with D, with T. In all of these words, that TD sound in the middle is a tap up. The voice is on, but I'm not really stopping the air. Excuse me. I'm stopping the air, but I'm not really building up pressure. So I'm not saying med-dull or metal with a tight tongue that bursts out. I'm saying metal, where I lift up to that TD position. I have my voice on, but it's a light touch. I'm on it and I'm back off it. I have a number of videos about this flap T, is what I like to call it, that comes between two vowels in words. And you just want to think about it. Mostly, for most people, if they think D, they'll say it correctly. Just don't hit your D too hard. You don't want med-dull, but rather metal. Same for all of these, although this one, I'm not sure of whether or not that's actually a word. But the spelling is a good idea because that happens in the word kettle, settle, battle, etc. TTLE does have that same sound. You might also find that it's hard to go from that flap into that syllabic L, and I talk about that quite a bit in my syllabic L videos as well. Thank you for that question. Hi, Rose. So Rose would like to know about sketches, noun versus verb. So I sketch, I have a sketch, she sketches, she has several sketches. This is not a word that changes. It's syllable stress between the plural noun and the verb. So they're both the same with first syllable stress. And that's probably mainly because sketch is a single syllable noun verb. And so for both of them, we have the red tent vowel, sket, and then this TCH, sketch, is basically just a CH sound. You can think about the T to help you say your CH accurately, that I'm saying ch. My tongue lifts up to the T position and then pushes out for the ch. Sketches. And then any word that ends in ch, when we make it into the verb form or the plural that has the es ending, is going to have an I and a z sound at the end. Chiz, sketches, sketches. So lax and short on that I sound, and then voiced. She sketches a tree. She has many sketches for sale. Yeah, okay, thank you for that request. And Rose also wanted to know about Veterans Day. Yeah, that's coming up next Wednesday. I do also have a video, Rose, talking about how to pronounce Veterans Day. And I think probably in that video, I point out that you can say veteran with a flap T, veteran in unstressed, veterans, that S says E. But often Americans will say veterans, in which case, veterans. Still first syllable stress, but if we reduce and eliminate that middle syllable, we change, instead of a flap, we change to a T. So because the TR together makes it more of a voiceless T, veterans. Veterans Day or Veterans Day, whichever one is easier, both are commonly used. And again, if you want a little more detail, search on my channel page for Veterans Day, and you can see me break that down in even more detail. And lastly, Rose wanted to know about heart rate. So heart rate basically is a compound noun where I'm going to have almost equal stress on both words, primary stress on heart rate. And we have a tendency to use that stopped T on both of those. So rather than heart rate with a released T, I just lift up for the T, heart rate. The heart has the R diphthong, and this A is a tense A, heart rate. Yeah, okay, good. My heart rate is staying low so far. Nobody's scaring me with their words. Okay, you're welcome for the answer. Another question about waist and waste. Those both have the same pronunciation. So waste, the body part, waste, trash. And they both have the A, tense A. And then your other question was vest and vast. And those two are not the same. This one has the red tent vowel and this one has the black cat vowel. And so if you have trouble with the W and V sounds, notice that the W has rounded lips and my teeth are not involved. So if I'm saying waist, I shouldn't feel any connection there, versus vest, I should feel my upper teeth and lower lip, and that sound continues, vest. If I have trouble between vest and vast, the and then you might want to pair it with another word that has the red tent vowel and the black cat vowel. So maybe like red vest and vast hat. The is more open and the is a more central vowel. I have a number of videos talking about this contrast, words like men and man, better and batter, etc. So you can find those on my vowels playlist or by searching for particular words on the channel. Those are definitely ones that affect a lot of people. A lot of people have a little bit of difficulty between the difference between the and the a. Great question. Okay, question about whether you can drop the letter D in the word kindness. Let's see, if I were to say it as kindness, can you hear the difference? I can a little bit. I think we don't say kind with a released D in kindness, but if I say kindness, going from the N to the N without any stopping, kindness, it sounds a little different to me. It's probably a cheat that you could get away with. What Americans typically do there is that they stop for the D, kindness, and then they release again for the next N. So it's just like we were talking about with heart rate. I don't say and release the D, kind. I say kindness, kindness. I stop the air and then start again on the N. So if you think about leaving out the D, just make sure there's a break between your N's, kindness, kindness. And yeah, I would say that probably it's not different enough for most people to notice. And you definitely won't hear me say kindness with a strong D in that word. Great question. Okay, Isabel is asking about how to know where to stress the right syllable, especially verbs and nouns. So, or for example, verbs and nouns. The general rule is that a noun has first syllable stress and a verb has second syllable stress. But this rule does not really work very well because there's so many words that don't follow that. Where it does work is in words like the noun project. I have a project I'm working on versus project. I'm going to project my voice, the verb, or record, record. There's a lot of examples where we do change the syllable stress and it's first syllable stress for the noun. So you can kind of think about that as a basic to go to, but it's not going to tell you for individual words well enough. But fortunately, you can use the dictionary, and the dictionary will tell you which syllable has the stress. So let's take a look at that. And I will also say that on my website, on my free practice materials, I have a lot of the common words sorted for you by which syllable gets the stress. So you can start practicing and noticing probably many of the words you're saying correctly, but you might find if you have a word that maybe you know something's wrong, but maybe you feel like I'm pronouncing the sounds in this word correctly, what's wrong? It may be that it's syllable stress. So when you're on speechmodification.com and you're in the free practice area, I would say you can search on the word syllable and you can see lessons related to this. And it'll show you how to learn about intonation in words, and nouns and verbs, syllable stress, etc. So let's just look at this intonation in words one. And this shows you how to read the dictionary. And you'll see there's a little line before the stress syllable. The other thing that's really nice about an online dictionary is I can listen for the rhythm. So I can start to internalize and hear that rhythm. I can repeat it. I can get it correct. But as I'm always showing you in our word of the day videos, for example, in the IPA of the dictionary, they're going to put a line. So for project, it's going to look like that, project. And in project, it's going to look like this, project. They wouldn't have this, it's this symbol. Anyway, you're not worried about the other symbols so much right now. You're going to see there's a little line. So in project, it goes before the pra. In project, it goes before the ject. You'll also see in project, in the unstressed syllable, that there's the upside down E symbol, the schwa. Or you'll often see also this symbol for an unstressed syllable versus project, that letter O says the clear vowel ah. So my lessons about syllable stress explain how to read the dictionary, how to listen for the clear vowels. Unfortunately, though, there isn't kind of one overarching rule to help you know when a word has which kind of stress. You can a lot of times rely on that you're probably saying many of these words correct. And the ones that you start, when you start paying attention to syllable stress, you may begin to notice which words you have sort of missorted in your brain. Ones to watch out for are when there's a similar word in native language. It may have a different stress pattern. Those are good ones to look up and check. Oh, okay. How does this sound in French or German or Spanish versus how it's stressed in American English? So that's a good starting point. And just words that you use frequently, you can kind of get a little list going in your mind of, okay, all of these have first syllable stress, all of these have second syllable stress. So unfortunately, there's not a quick fix for it, but just being aware of it and starting to listen to syllable stress is really going to help your brain sort out and organize words. So thank you for that request or that question. I appreciate it. Yes, you may ask a question on grammar. It's not my primary focus, but I will try to answer that for you if you want to go ahead and ask it. Alexis wants to know, is it okay to use a stop T in the word sentence? Yes, I tend to do that. So sentence. You might find it easier to use a real T, but most Americans are going to use a stop there. Sentence. They go from the N, they stop it, and then they do kind of another syllabic N here. So it sounds like sentence, where they basically drop out that vowel after the T as well. Similarly, like mountain, cotton, button, we go from that stop T to the syllabic N. That's a pretty common combination. There's some other NT words where we drop the T, but in sentence, because of the way the word breaks down, we use a stop T rather than just dropping that T out. Okay, so I missed your first message. So you're asking about an example sentence of insulted. Oh, with a rude insult. Okay, yes. So back to the noun and verb stress. So insulted, to insult someone, verb, second syllable stress. An insult is what they said, noun. So that one does follow the rule of nouns, first syllable stress, verb, second syllable stress. Good example. Yeah, thank you. I do have a list of nouns and verbs that do this and a video about noun and verb stress. And that's a good starting point as well for paying attention to syllable stress. Okay, we have a question about battle versus bottle. So both of these have our flap T and our syllabic L. The main difference between battle and bottle is that battle has the black cat vowel and bottle has the not hot vowel. So interestingly, this one sounds like ah, even though it's spelled with letter O, and this one sounds like ah for the letter A. So again, just like we were talking about with the eh and ah contrast in vest and vast, we want to maybe pair some other words that help you really hear, because when you get to two similar words like this, hearing the difference between battle and bottle might be harder for you, particularly saying it might be harder. But if you say something like had a battle or half the battle versus the top bottle or bottle stopper, or even better, maybe father's bottle, something that has the ah, the A. All of these are ah words, but you may have a tendency to have an error pattern on that vowel ah. So sometimes people can say it more easily in a word like father because it's spelled with the letter A. At any rate, if I can say match had and battle together, that forward ah versus ah, the more back father, bottle, that might help me distinguish those two as well. I do have videos in my vowels playlist talking about vowel ah and vowel ah and how to practice and make a difference between those two vowel sounds. So great question. Thank you. You're so welcome. Alexis is asking about wander versus wonder. So here again, we have wander and wonder. We have a letter O and a letter A, but again, different vowel sounds this time. Wander has the ah vowel. Looks like this in the dictionary, wa. So I like to pair that with caught or law or thought. I was caught wandering. Wonder is a vowel schwa. Sounds like so some wonder or much wondering. Again, pair another vowel schwa word with wonder and another vowel aw word with wander. Wander is rounded, that aw. Wonder is more central, and no rounding. Good. Again, getting oriented to the vowels in general can be helpful. And on my vowels playlist, the first video will kind of walk you through each of the vowels, give you some examples. Until you have a way to compare and orient what the vowels are, of course, the way they're spelled, the letters, doesn't really help us. So getting used to the sounds, having some anchor points to compare to, tends to be super helpful overall in these close kinds of pairs. So that's wander and wonder. And then you also asked about worm and warm. Yeah, good. So with worm, I was just talking with a client about these two words. So worm, even though it's spelled with O-R, has the ER sound. So you might want to rewrite it like that. It's just like the word were, we were, plus an M. So we were looking at worms, and warm, even though it has the AR, has the OR sound, just like the word war or this word war. So you could try pairing we wore something warm. It's just like the word war plus M. This is a great one. And actually, when my client mentioned it to me last week, I thought about adding it to our word of the day playlist because, here we have the letters OR saying ER and the letters AR saying OR. It's really confusing. And once you rewrite it and think about the actual sounds, worm, or warm, it makes it so much easier. I don't think it's so hard to say these. It's more about that the spelling doesn't really help me. It's not always easy to say those vocalic R sounds, and especially when they're followed by an M or an N. So I don't mean to make light of the challenge of pronouncing these words, but understanding how they should be pronounced can be really simplified by looking at the sounds, rewriting them in a different way. So thank you for bringing that question up. Welcome. So nice to see you here from Syria, other places. Welcome. I'm so glad to have so many people from all over the world tuning in. I think it's really wonderful. We have a request for the pronunciation of Asia and Africa. So Asia, this letter S says this sound zh. I talk about this in my video about the sound zh. Also I have a recent video about the word version to help you with that zh sound. Basically, it's like the SH sound plus the voice. So if you can say shh and then turn your voice on, zh, then you have what you need for Asia. And it has the tense A and then my zh sound. And this IA just says schwa, Asia. So you could write it like this, Asia. This part is the part that maybe is unfamiliar. Whereas Africa, first syllable stress, and this has the black cat vowel. So a, fri, ka, ends with the schwa. So that would be an a, fri, ka, Africa. The frika is short. Asia and Africa. Great question. Thank you. Okay, one more question, and then I think we'll wrap up because we're going a little bit long today. Thanks for sticking with it and for all of these great questions. It's so you have such great ideas, and it's really fun to talk about. So the question was saying the words little Italy together and smoothly. Yeah, I have a little difficulty with that as well. The word little by itself is challenging for a lot of people. It has, again, that flap T sounds more like a D, and that syllabic L that we were talking about with battle and bottle earlier. Practice little by itself, and then Italy is just like little. The first part of it also is it'll, Italy. So you have to do it'll twice in a row, which is part of what makes it hard. So kind of getting that it'll part, it'll, little, Italy, little Italy. Yeah, it's kind of a tongue twister. It's also the way we say it'll. So here's a really good tongue twister for you. it'll be in Little Italy. Oh, that was hard. Okay, just work on Little Italy by themselves, and then I would just go slowly. Little Italy, Little Italy, Little Italy, until you're kind of going back and forth between the Italy. Yeah, that's thank you for that idea. That's the new tongue twister for today. I actually don't usually recommend working on tongue twisters. People often ask me about them. I think that there's enough naturally occurring ones in words like really or rural, or many of the phrases that we say are challenging enough that of course, you can get mastery over controlling your tongue by working on a tongue twister, but I think it's more practical to work on phrases that you need to say, like Little Italy, and to kind of break them down and build them back up. At any rate, that was kind of fun. So thank you. You're so welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of class today. I'll be back again tomorrow with our Word of the Day class. And on Sunday, we'll be having our Phrase of the Week class, as well as our members only question and answer class. So we have this regular class for everyone on Fridays. And then on Sundays, we have a smaller group of channel members who can ask their questions. And if you're a channel member, you can ask your question at any time, and I'll cover it in the weekly class. So whether or not you can attend live, you can still get your questions answered quickly. If you have a request for the Word of the Day series, feel free to leave that in the comments for this video or any of my videos. And I hope you'll join me again next Friday for our question and answer class. We'll be having those live every Friday. Thanks so much, everyone, for being part of class today, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.